Right, so it's a brand new year and there's a high chance that you might be looking for something new to do, something to sort of like keep your attention span going, and maybe photography might be one of those things. So I'm going to go through a short list of items that you will definitely want to invest in if you want to start a hobby or career in photography. So stick around. What's up everybody, welcome back to another video here at Benham Media. My name is Nathan and it's an absolute pleasure to see all of your wonderful smiling faces today. Thank you so much for clicking on that thumbnail. If you are in fact new here, it would mean so much to me if you would consider subscribing to the channel. That way you can stay up to date with all the wonderful things that we are going to try to do within 2021 with this channel. So guys, just hit that little button just down there that says subscribe, and that way you can get pinged and all sorts of things when I upload a new video. So let's kick into what a lot of people try to do within a new year. They have a lot of New Year's resolutions. So photography or a new hobby of some sort is generally top of that list. And if photography is in fact something that you are looking into, maybe you've been brought a new camera for Christmas and you're not quite sure what type of gear you might want to sort of add to it, or you are in the market of looking for a new camera and you're not entirely too sure what to buy, when to buy it, how much gear you need. So I've put together a small little list of things that you might want to invest in if you are in fact interested in photography. So the first thing and the most important thing and the most obvious thing you're going to need to start a hobby or career in photography is in fact a camera. Now the camera that I use is the Canon EOS 80D digital camera. Now when I went out looking for a camera for myself, obviously the market is saturated. What brand do you go for? What type of camera do you go for? Do you need to get a mirrorless? Do you want to get a film? Do you want to get a digital? There's plenty. So the Canon 80D was the one that I ended up going for, mainly for two reasons. One, it was a sensational still camera, but it's also something that I use for my YouTube channels, so it's quite good at filming as well. So if that's something that's on the back of your mind that you might be interested in. Now, like most Canons, it has a flip out screen. So even when you are sort of trying to take photographs out slightly below you or above you or vice versa, you can still look at the screen if you've got the screen finder on. Now, is Canon the best make? Yes, maybe no. I know Sony is really banging out some sensational cameras at the moment, and you've also got Nikon as well. But for me, Canon was the way I go forward. And like most photographers, you end up sort of getting pigeonholed into a certain type of brand, and Canon has been sort of the way that I've gone forward. My vlogging camera, which is the G7 Mark II, is a little Canon camera that I like to sort of carry around. So when I'm out and about shooting in the city or on location, and I'm just doing a little bit of a vlog while I'm at it, I use my small little vlogging camera. So Canons are the way that I've sort of gone forward. Now Canons for me are better because of the flip out screen. Not all brands do that. I know Sony are starting to bring out flip out screens, but not all Sonys do that as well. So for me, I find it very, very useful, especially when I'm filming like now. I can sort of see the camera or the viewfinder on the edge, so I can sort of make sure I'm in frame and everything else like that. So a camera is definitely the #1 thing you need. Go out there, have a little look at the market. Some of them can be really, really pricey. You don't need the top brand camera to start out. All right, it is your own feel. There are many photographers out there who will recommend this camera or that camera, but it's your own self sort of preference really. So do your research, have a look at some of the reviews, and at the end of the day, see if you can borrow one from a friend or anything like that to see if you can get sort of a bit of a feel to it. But #1 is definitely a camera. Now #2 is in fact a tripod. Tripods are really, really useful, especially when you're out shooting landscapes or architecture or anything like that. It is a way of maybe stabilizing your camera. A tripod has the 3 legs, which is the reason why it's called a tripod, and it's sort of like pin it to the ground and it gives you stabilization. Of course, you can go out and you can do handheld, but there's always that risk of camera shake. And if you are trying to do things like long exposures, or if you are trying to get the right shot, a tripod is a great asset to have. And a lot of photographers will always say, get yourself a decent tripod. Again, they can vary from different prices. You can buy a nice cheap one from some online applications to you can go to a camera shop and buy them from extremely very expensive prices. But again, it is your own preference. You don't need a very expensive tripod to start out with, and of course you can upgrade as and where you want to go to. The particular tripod that I use has a ball head on the top, so when I place my camera on, I'm able to sort of wiggle it around and put it sideways and pull it up, and it's really useful. So maybe go for a tripod that has a ball head. That way it gives you a lot more flexibility for when you are taking your photographs. But a camera tripod, literally from there you can do whatever you want going forward. Number 3 on my list is if you have a camera where you can change lenses, of course, buy a second lens. One of the lenses that I would definitely highly recommend is a nifty 50, the 50mm. Now I have the Canon 50mm, which is, again, it's a very versatile lens, but because it's a prime lens and you're sort of stuck at that focal length, like most other lenses, which are zoom lenses, where it has a variant of focal lengths, a prime lens makes you think outside the box, has to make you think about the framing of your photograph. And the nifty 50 is generally a very good second lens for a photographer, and a lot of photographers will say the same, is that it's light, it's durable, and they're generally quite cheap. I think you can buy one secondhand for about £100 in the UK, and it just gives you something different to sort of focus on a little bit as well. So I would recommend the 50mm. I might do another video on why it is such a good second lens. But for me, the 50mm lens is probably a good second lens if you buy a kit lens with your camera, which is what came with my Canon as well. So yeah, a second lens. Now, you've got all of your kit, you need something to put it in, and a camera bag is pretty much like a must buy, really. You don't want to put your camera into your normal rucksack so it can rattle around a little bit, and especially if you've spent quite a lot of money on your gear. Now again, camera bags, they vary all the way up to the top. Now I know Peter McKinnon, who is a famous YouTube photographer, has his own brand of camera bags, and I would love to own one, but they are top market, brilliant camera bags. But the camera bag that I have is reasonably cheap. I think I got it for about 60 quid online. And the reason why I like it so much is because it's waterproof, it's light, it's flexible, and the panels inside, a good camera bag will allow you to sort of reposition all the little sort of sections and stuff like that, so you can make it out how you like it. For me, I have a bit at the top where I can just slip my camera in at the very top with my lens, and as and when I'm walking about, I can just sort of flip it over, take my camera out, ready to shoot. And then you can also reposition all of your different sections for your lenses, for your batteries, for your SD cards, and so on and so forth. So camera bag is definitely something you might want to buy. Now the next couple of items are sort of items that I would recommend you invest in, but not necessarily something you need straight away. The first one is an ND filter. An ND filter is quite equivalent, it's sunglasses for your camera. You screw it on the front of your lens, and there are things called f-stops depending on how much light you bring into your camera. Now, if you have played around with your camera and you are on manual and you're playing around with shutter speed, aperture, and the ISO, it means you'll notice that sometimes your viewfinder gets blown out. That's because all the light that is coming into your camera, depending on how long you've got your shutter open for and how much aperture you're bringing in, and it just basically filters in the light. Okay, so if you're doing like, say, long exposure shots and you've got your shutter speed open for 5 seconds, that's an awful lot of light coming into your camera. If you can buy one that's adjustable, so you can buy ND filters that are just one f-stops and you sort of replace them as you want, or you can get one like me where you have several f-stops within it and you just sort of spin it around and it gives you that sort of like variety of different sort of shades. that are sort of stopping the light coming through your lens. And an ND filter is definitely useful when it comes to shooting outside, because if you've got direct sunlight or it's a bright day, you can sort of, again, use it as a sunglass to sort of reduce the amount of light coming into your camera. And if you are going to start doing long exposure shots, it is definitely vital. So it sort of opens up your opportunities a little bit when it comes to shooting, especially outside when you're doing landscapes or you're taking shots of your city. So an ND filter is a good buy, but not necessarily a must buy for when you're starting. And a bit of a bonus item. Now, depending on the type of photography that you want to do, this item isn't necessarily a must-have buy, but they are very, very cheap, and they're always good to have in your repertoire, especially if you're going to start looking at portraits or headshot photography. And that is quite simply one of these. This is a reflector. Now, I was told as an actor, if you rock up on a photo shoot and your photographer does not have a reflector, then you might need to sort of look at getting some more shots taken forward. So a reflector is quite simply what it says on the tin. Comes in a little bag. You can attach it into your bag or the side of your camera bag, which you've bought already, and it does exactly that. So you can sort of find the light and you can sort of reflect it onto your subjects anyway, like that. And you can buy some as well with a flat white surface, and it just reflects light a little bit onto your subject. And you can sit there taking a photograph and your subject can be sitting here with the reflector and you're taking a better light. So that way you don't need to worry about lighting both sides or around the face as well. So not necessarily a must buy, but something that is really, really useful depending on the type of photography that you want to go into. And it just sort of folds up nice and simple, put it back in the bag, and you are done with that. And that's it. That's all that I feel you need if you are starting out in photography. Even if it's just as a hobby or if you're looking at a new career, because quite frankly, I suppose some of us are looking at something new to keep ourselves occupied in this strange world that we are living in. And these 5 or 6 items will definitely sort of like start you out well. If you are looking at your sort of gear and the stuff that you've bought and you feel that I need more gear to be a better photographer, not necessarily the way forward. Sometimes when I started out, I only had my camera and something to shoot with. And yeah, practice makes perfect. That's what makes you a better photographer. Take your camera, go out and start shooting. Trust me, your first photographs, even though they might look good, you will improve with each and every photograph that you take. And even now, after 4 years of doing this as a hobby, into a profession, into what I'm doing now, I will go out in the city for a photo shoot or for a photo walk, and I can tell you that my first 5 to 10 photographs aren't good. It takes me a while for my creative juices to start flowing before I start looking at objects, something that I've even taken a picture of already, and I'm like, do you know what? This is actually a little bit better. So guys, go out, take your camera and start shooting. Even if it's in your local area and you're taking photographs of pigeons or the local park or even your local bus stop, just keep practicing, because eventually it will start sinking in and you will start looking at objects and items and people a little bit differently. And, you know, on top of that as well, like maybe looking at getting some extra SD cards. So just in case you fill up your memory on one, you've always got a backup as well. So that's not really part of the list, because you can survive on one SD card, but I would recommend having a couple as well, just in case. And if you can't afford it, maybe a couple of extra batteries, because if you're out over a weekend and you've got no place to charge your batteries, it's always good to have an extra one as well. But they're not necessarily something that you definitely need to start out. These 5 or 6 items, I think, will start you out nicely. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been useful. If it has, hit the like button just down there and show your appreciation. And if you haven't yet done, subscribe to the channel. But until next time, I've been Nathan, and as always, you have been sensational. Thank you and goodbye. Mwah, 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 mwah.